Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. It's Arsenal's biggest test. Can they deliver? Do they even know it is the time to deliver? Lots to get into as we look forward to another jam-packed, fantastic Premier League weekend. And of course, we're going to start off with Arsenal because they top the Premier League at the moment. But how long can they keep doing this? How long can they keep defying the logic at the start of the season that they would be the best team in the league, and deservedly so? It is a huge week for Arsenal. I speak from experience, and I think everybody who's watched their team in a title race, and certainly Arsenal fans will remember, you can't just dismiss this as not being a massive, massive week for Arsenal, because they play 2 home games against Brentford. Well, sorry, they don't. They'd like to do that. That would be illegal. You can't play 2 home games against one team in the same season. They play 2 home games, one of them against Brentford, and then the massive game against Manchester City. And the enormity of that game we'll talk about in a moment. But people keep talking about 2 games between Arsenal and Man City that could define the title. No, the Etihad game is hard. It's at Man City. You will have to play defensive like everybody does. The game at the Emirates, that's more. There's not 2 games. There's 1.5 game and there's half a game. There's more focus for Arsenal on the home game. They've got to get a result there, because if they don't, the away game in the Premier League becomes ridiculously difficult. Look at the Premier League. That's how it looks at the weekend. We've got Arsenal top of the league. They've got 5 points on Man City, and they have got a game in hand. They've got to beat Brentford on Saturday afternoon. We're going to do a watch along for this because I think it's absolutely huge. Respect to Brentford. This ain't an easy game for Arsenal. Look at where Brentford are in that league. They're in 7th place and they deserve to be. Arsenal will be feeling the pressure. Pressure's a good thing. You've got to feel the pressure. But they will never, I believe, be in a situation like this again. This next 6 days is pivotal to Arsenal's season. And I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised because I don't think the coverage is that good anyway, but I'm surprised that the mainstream media haven't picked up on the enormity of what is about to happen. You know, it really is big, because Arsenal, if they don't beat Brentford tomorrow, the nerves, the confidence, the door opens for Man City. I think Man City are going to win 2 of their next 3. The sandwich game in the middle, which is a question mark, is Arsenal. So they're at home on Sunday to Aston Villa, and then I think they're away next Saturday to Nottingham Forest. You'd expect them to win both those games. So Arsenal are going to know that. What can Arsenal do to respond to that? They have to beat Brentford, and then they've got to get a result against Manchester City. Any slip up there, and Man City know they've got that Etihad game in the bank where they can basically, you'd go into that thinking, well, we're at home, we've got to get the 3 points. So Man City's mentality will always be, although the league says 45 points, we've got to play them at the Etihad, so 48 points. And then that puts you 2 points behind them with a game in hand. So you've just got a little bit more pressure. And the pressure is always on the car in front. You look about, you know, when you're out in there in front of the race, you're winning. But when you're looking in your wing mirror and you can see 2nd place and they're getting closer and closer, you start, you go into a corner, you oversteer a little bit, you mess up your gear change. It's pressure, and that's what Pep Guardiola and Man City are going to try and put on Arsenal. And that's why it's really important that Arsenal maintain at least a 5-point gap, because as soon as it comes down to 2, even with the game in hand, the pressure's there. So Brentford comes up for Arsenal on Saturday afternoon. Brentford will be a difficult game. They've got to win this one. As an Arsenal fan, or at Arteta, or those Arsenal players, I wouldn't be saying this, but deep down, I would be any win. I don't care if we get the dodgiest penalty in the last minute of the game and we win 1-0 and Brentford are the better team. You've got to win a league title, you've got to win when you're playing badly. Now, if they go and win 3 or 4-0, what a statement. But tomorrow against Brentford, they've just got to win that game. Because as I say, it's a home game. Any dropping of the points just gives that boost to Manchester City. And again, and I tell you what, it's a prelude as well, because even if they beat Brentford, the enormity, the test of Man City on Wednesday night, I just can't wait for. Arteta has to go into that game at the Emirates as the favourite. They have to go into that game of, puff your chest out, stand up straight, and we are top of the league and we're better than you. They've got to do that. They cannot. I know Arteta came there from Man City, and the respect for Pep Guardiola, but he cannot concede in any way in the week building up to this game. oh, Pep's the greatest, Pep's this, Pep's that. Because it psychologically, your players hear that. You've got to go into that game at home and know, and I'm not, doesn't make any difference to me or anyone who's not an Arsenal fan, but categorically, I don't care how many games there's left in the season, certain games of the season can kill off a rival. If you beat Brentford and you beat Man City, it doesn't matter what Man City have done against Aston Villa. Say they beat Aston Villa and they've got 48 points. If you beat Brentford and you beat Man City, you'll have 56 points. That's an 8-point gap with a game in hand. I'm not saying it's over, but, that's even if Man City beat Villa at the weekend. So if you beat Brentford and you beat Man City, you will have an 8-point gap on Thursday morning with a game in hand. Even if Villa gets stuffed by Man City. That incentive is what you've got to look at. I love what Ten Hag says about saying every game at a time. But Arsenal have got to look at these next 2 games and go, we've got to express ourselves as the league's best team, and we've got to grab this opportunity. And I find it massively intriguing because I think they can beat Brentford tomorrow. I'd be surprised if they don't. But that Man City game, even as a neutral, even as somebody actually would prefer Arsenal to win it, which is weird for a United fan to say, I just worry about how Arteta's going to approach that game, because I personally think there's been times this season where it's been unfortunate that this game got rearranged because I think Arsenal would have beaten Man City. But will Arteta overthink it? Will he try and keep it? I mean, the point's not bad. You can't lose. But I just think play the way that Arsenal have played this season. And it's at the Emirates. The Etihad game, I'd almost forget that. You're going to have to play counter-attacking. You're going to have to defend well. But the Emirates with the crowd, Man City a little bit vulnerable. Spurs have just beaten. You've got to go for it. So what a week. What a test. Can Arsenal deliver? We'll wait and see. Can't wait for that watch along. We're doing that tomorrow afternoon. Get your comments in below. What are you thinking? Where will we be in a week's time? What will that gap be next to me? Obviously, if they draw and they both win at the weekend, and then they draw the game at the Emirates between each other, the gap will still be 5 points with a game in hand. Not too bad. If Man City were to win both games and Arsenal were to draw against Brentford and then lose, they would both have 51 points. That's no, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Yes, they would. Yeah, because Man City would have 6 points and then Arsenal would have drawn against Brentford. They'd be on 51 points. And of course, if they both win at the weekend and then Man City beat Arsenal, that gap would be down to 2 points. So, look, the permutations are massive. It's a proper 6-pointer, isn't it? And yeah, can't wait for it. Absolutely can't wait for it. We've already spoken about other games. Man City will play Villa on Sunday ahead of that game, which is coming up on Wednesday, which will also be doing a watch-along for you. Got the Liverpool derby, the Merseyside derby, Liverpool against Everton, Monday night. I mean, look, Everton trying to stay up, Liverpool trying to stay relevant. We'll be doing a watch-along for that as well. But the rest of the weekend games, big game between West Ham and Chelsea tomorrow lunchtime. I was going to do that as a watch-along, but I thought I really want to do the 3 o'clocks this week. So West Ham against Chelsea, I don't think it'll be a very good game, Chelsea is struggling to score goals. West Ham will keep it tight. I can see that being a 0-0er, really. I don't think that's going to be a great game. Might now be a 6-goal thriller, but I think that'll be a 0-0er. I think that's just the way it is at the moment between those two sides and their current form. The rest of the 3 o'clocks, some cracking games. Crystal Palace against Brighton is a real rivalry. Sometimes I don't understand it myself, but there's a real rivalry there. That'll be a big game. Palace sort of, mid-table, bottom half, yes. Brighton having a great season, so that'll be a cracker. Fulham against Forest. Fulham having a great season. Forest, recovering. I think that's an interesting one for Fulham if they can get a win. Leicester against Tottenham. Tottenham trying to get back in that top 4 race. Leicester with a great result against Villa last week. And then Southampton against Wolves. I mean, Southampton for me are heading down. Wolves might be heading up, so that may, up the table. So that'll be an interesting one. And then Bournemouth against Newcastle. I mean, can Newcastle just go and get 3 points that, they've been drawing a lot lately? Bournemouth probably heading down, in my opinion. Can Newcastle go and get the points there? Leeds, Man United on Sunday at 2 o'clock. I think we'll do well to get something there. I'm going to go for a draw in that one. And then Man City, Villa, as we've already spoken about. The Premier League at the moment is so compelling. It is the best league in the world. We've already got a Super League. It's called the Premier League. But it's so compelling. There's very rarely a game that's got nothing on it. And I look back to last season or you'd look at the 3 o'clock games and you'd go, I'm not watching Match of the Day. I'm not interested. Whereas now, there's so many teams in the relegation battle. There's so many teams overachieving, like the Brentfords and the Fulhams and the Brightons. who could potentially get into Europe. You've got Liverpool and Chelsea who are basically mid-table. I think the only team that's not really doing anything at the moment is Villa, who are just not in the relegation battle and not going to get in the European battle. But there's and of course, if there's only really Villa and maybe Crystal Palace that are in that situation, it means every other game's got something on it. It's either a team going for Europe against a relegation team, or a relegation team against a relegation team, or a team going for Europe against the team going for Europe. It's a really fascinating league at the moment, and I actually will say it again. I think this league, this season, this week is pivotal. I believe that, all right, most teams have played 20, 21 games, which means there's still 17, 18 games to go. But I really do feel that this weekend and midweek will be pivotal. Certainly in Arsenal's title race. Let's see what happens. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video, subscribe, and don't forget, we've got watch-alongs for you over this weekend. Lots to get involved with. Take care. I'll speak to you in a bit.